Alrighty, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. It is LaughNgamez here. I'm back with another Starcraft 2 1 versus 1 bot AI cast. We have got ourselves what should be a good one here today, as it's going to be BenBotBC. Just rolls off the tongue, taking on LunaxVRR. And what makes this battle a fun one to cast is that this is actually a father-son battle. The author of Lunax and BenBot are from the same family, and so, yeah, that's just a cool fact, I think, that the enjoyment of programming can be passed down. And, yeah. A bit of context on LunaxVRR, since it's been off the ladder for a while. LunaxVRR recently got reactivated. It climbed very high on the ladder as a new bot, using relatively straightforward strategy. And then authors kind of adjusted their bots, the more active ones, and it fell off a little bit. But it's still a very strong bot, and it has a lot of promise. Yeah, and we'll just see how BenBot is going to try and handle that today, as BenBot is one of those bots that has had a lot of improvement put into it against things like Tempest and Carriers. BenBot's probably never been better than it has against Tempest, which is very important, as it's a really viable strategy on the ladder. But yeah, ladies and gentlemen, before we get any further into that, click that like button. Let's just go for 60 likes on this video. Leave a comment down below saying more bots if you want to see more of these bot matches. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and consider becoming a YouTube member if you want to get a member bonus video every week. This week it's actually LunaxVRR taking on Argobot, which was a fun match to cast. Now, we do have Lunax going for an early Zealot and then flexing on BenBot a little, saying no bunker rush. And BenBot, having delayed everything but one Marine, does have to pull some SCVs to defend against this early Zealot. Just a simple strategy. Build a Zealot, chrono boost it out, send it across the map, and you will be rewarded with 5 SCV kills. And that is really, really nice for Lunax to start the game off. That is going to be a significant economic blow. Another Zealot was running around scouting, and so a bit of the family meta might be going on with Lunax having a counter with the early Zealot to counter a bunker rush, because BenBot is kind of known for doing that. So just cool to see Lunax doing that. It's now throwing up its double gases at the natural base, and that's interesting. This seems a little early. I think the Stargate might have been a bit more delayed than it needed to, as it started researching +1 attack, but it is nice to have that attack upgrade done before your first unit. And then we do have Lunax transferring probes down towards the natural, long distance mining gas, which again is interesting. It makes you wonder, could that money be spent on other things, or could the build order be retooled a little bit to make that not be the case? Maybe a bit of a quicker nexus somehow. But Lunax is playing an interesting opening. It's got the 2 Zealots, which will probably help you defend against a lot of builds, particularly if you have a extra reaction programmed into it to say, okay, all right, we are being cheesed. We've already got 2 Zealots produced or producing. Yeah, build a third or more to respond to cheeses. So there's lots of potential with an opening like this. I really like it. It's impossible to cast a Lunax game, though, without pointing out that it does not speed mine, which makes its climb on the ladder all the more impressive, but it is absolutely something that might hold it back, and it makes it hard to judge how good the bot truly is when it's playing with significant handicap like that. Now, BenBot, on the other hand, isn't actually that far behind on SCVs, despite those early losses. Lunax, though, despite not having the quickest Nexus in the world, does have a nice little probe lead. It's chrono boosting them out. And if it can keep pace economically with BenBot, that would be impressive. considering that it doesn't have the speed mining, but it maybe shows a little bit here. I mean, of course, Terran Mules throw that off a bit, but this will hurt Lunax economically still, though. The build is quite efficient. It does have the first carrier about to finish up. It's got the second one being chrono boosted out, and now BenBot will probably get its first look that it's up against carriers. We get a tag carrier. I like the simplicity of that. Alternatively, it could be oh crap carriers or something like that. BenBot dropping a mule to be a nitpicker. It could maybe be on a closer patch. I don't know. I don't know if it actually makes much of a difference, but one of those little things you as an author can maybe prioritize for easy wins. Now, BenBot is producing Vikings to try and counter these carriers. Lunax, I'm curious if it will get up a forge or build some batteries and cannons at some point to defend these carriers. But yes, this is where things kind of get interesting, in my opinion, because when you're focused on something, it's very easy to counter it. Well, I shouldn't say very easy, but you expect to counter it. If you're programming counter to... This might seem really dumb and just obvious what I'm saying, but if you expect to counter carriers and that's what you've been working on, you think you'll have good success. But then if 10 updates go by afterwards, or you've been working on your bot for 6 months without thinking about carriers, you may have come up with changes that might have actually weakened you against certain strategies. And that's sometimes why we see bots on the ladder that don't receive updates kind of have more success at times as things change around them. And we'll see if that impacts Lunax against BenBot, because BenBot absolutely is pretty good against carriers and Tempest these days, but there's always a chance maybe BenBot will have had some kind of tweak in its micro or its unit compositions that could make it vulnerable to this mass carrier style. And we do have a relatively passive game going on right now. 51 probes to 52 SCVs. That's absolutely good for the Terran. Lunax has been using its chrono boost, I believe, on carriers, or maybe some upgrades. But the third Nexus is on the way. BenBot doesn't have its third base secured yet. It's floating over, though. And we actually have BenBot maybe moving out for an attack with, like, 6 Marines and 6 Vikings. Yeah, and we'll see whether this can get anything done. This actually seems like a very poor timing from BenBot, because this is like not quite critical mass, I think, to deal with something like this. Lunax is sending these carriers out to deal with this. Can the Vikings target down the carriers? Will Lunax micro back injured ones potentially? Interceptors are being launched. BenBot is trying to target down the injured carriers. So far unable to secure a kill on any of them, though. So Lunax loses 5 probes. BenBot loses 5 Vikings and 5 Marines. That is a big setback for the anti-air of BenBot. So that was no good. Now BenBot does a big SCV transfer now that this base is landed. That's good to see. Dropping a nice fresh mule there. And we do have high-sec auto tracking on the way. BenBot is prioritizing the air upgrades. It's just building lots and lots of Vikings. It's playing how you need to as the Terran. I think the only other thing you need to do as BenBot when you're up against a mass air style is try and get up a very quick 4th base. If your opponent's turtling, expand, right? There's that quote from Artosis. Now we've got, let's see, high-sec auto tracking on the way, Vikings being produced, Infernal Pre-Igniter, maybe for some Hellion harassment later. Lunax has yet to invest in any sort of static defense, although it's got a very nice pylon wall at its natural. And yeah, just building up to mass carriers. 8 versus 10 Vikings is mighty fine. So BenBot's investing in lots of other things where, well, maybe not tons of other things, but clearly it's not producing 4 Vikings at a time, whereas Lunax is pretty much ensuring those Stargates stay active. The main bases are starting to mine out, though, so those 4th bases will be more important as time goes on. BenBot notably hasn't started up an orbital or a planetary yet. This seems a little strange, but as far as priorities go, I'm okay with it. I'd prefer the orbital, but at least it's not a planetary against a mass air style. Like, that is good logic. So maybe BenBot's just kind of keeping that as an option. Maybe it's bugged out and spending, or maybe it's just spending all its gas on Vikings, so it's never actually hitting that income threshold. Yeah, we'll see if it does start one of those two up. I'd love the Orbital because it's definitely missed out on mules by this point in the game. But again, it's that intuition thing that's very difficult to program into bots. Like, obviously a human who knows LunaxVRR will say, oh, just go all orbitals, don't build any anti-ground. But when you're programming a general bot, it's not that easy. You could program in something like that. I guess that might be an easy filter for bots on the ladder. Just say, hey, this bot only builds air units, or this bot only builds ground units. But then, of course, if your opponent updates, that will trick you. So I guess the best option is active scouting, having some sort of priorities list or something like that. Still, though, I'm definitely disappointed. BenBot may be a little broken or just not quite prioritizing things correctly. It's got 2,000 minerals in the bank. It has yet to start up a 4th base, so I think there's a bit of a bug in BenBot right now. We have not got any extra gases. Yeah, it's totally hung up on something, and I don't know what it is. So when I was talking about this strategy, maybe breaking BenBot, there is the potential for that. Like, it might just be in survival mode against, like, what is usually a carrier rush or a tempest rush or something like that. But there we go. All of a sudden, BenBot wakes up. I have no idea what prompted this. All of a sudden, it's like, let's start building other things. It lands all its Vikings. Okay, so it gets a scout off at the 4th base of Lunax. It's got all its Vikings on the ground. It's now building a Thor, adding in a Marine. I don't mind the Thor. The 2/2 upgrades are definitely nice. Lunax does have +3 attack done, but here we go. One carrier flies forward, eats many Widow Mines. Being in this position defensively is the best case for BenBot, where it's Marines in the bunkers, the turrets can help out, but looks like BenBot's Vikings are just not interested. Lunax, though, is a little disjointed in this attack. The first 2 carriers got very far ahead. These Vikings are eventually going to need to man up and help defend against this, though. The Widow Mines will eventually refire, though. That's 1 dead carrier. That might be a few more dead carriers. There we go. Vikings volleying on the carriers as the Protoss tries to push forward, but the lack of armor or shields on these carriers is really showing. BenBot's Vikings are just annihilating the fleet of Lunax, and man, oh man, trying to attack into a defensive BenBot when you have no detection for Widow Mines is really painful. As we can see, Lunax maybe not having adequate detection programming. So that's not good. And as these Widow Mines may potentially get unlimited efficiency. How many Vikings died there? Like 4 extra, I think? Or maybe 3? Because BenBot had already lost some at the start of the game, so Lunax just gets absolutely butchered. It's on 4 bases, though. BenBot did set itself back very far economically with how it was hung up there. But yeah, I'm not sure what to make of this. I guess another thing to consider, also with the dropping the mules, to revisit something that's not related to carriers or Vikings at all, is the mineral patches that are further away are the ones that actually, I mean, again, eventually a patch will come, maybe. The further ones away, I believe, are generally the smaller patches. Ooh, that mule does get stuck a little bit. It fixes itself. But actually, maybe a little bit of a mining bug here. The turret looks like the speed mining of BenBot may be bugging out a little bit there. Yeah, so that's more motivation to ensure you're dropping the mules on the bigger patches is all I'm saying. So then your bases don't mine out as quickly, so you can keep your extra SCVs active. Now, BenBot, I think, should win this game at this point, though. Lunax, it's not taking more bases. It's just maxing out on carriers once more. BenBot's got 25 Vikings, and we all saw what they did in that previous engagement. Lunax, yeah, it just doesn't have, like, the behavior to say, like, oh, let's build a 5th base or anything like that. Again, a straightforward, simple bot that is, yeah, pretty good at what it does, but we see BenBot's definitely had the work to counter something like this, even though it had a little had a little delay in this game. Now, defender's advantage in StarCraft 2 is a very big thing, so we'll see if LunaX can capitalize on that. If BenBot gets distracted by this Nexus, that kind of thing, the carriers could do very well. The concern, though, is that there still is no detection, and there's presently 9 Widow Mines for BenBot. BenBot's maxed out. Can LunaX defend this? It's sending its carriers forward. Can they take care of the Vikings? We see BenBot kiting back with these Vikings, though, and they're doing a pretty darn good job of it. Widow Mines go off on the Vikings, though, and get so much friendly fire. Quite a few of the carriers have been cleaned up. They don't have any interceptors left, so the Vikings are kind of just retreating successfully. Oh my gosh, that was atrocious. The Widow Mines are now recharging as well. There is still a Hellion and a tank working on the Nexus as the carriers are trying to get the anti-air units. Thor is being repaired by the SCVs is very cool, but the Nexus will go down. LunaX immediately attempts to rebuild it. BenBot's got to re-siege that tank. Yeah, I'm not sure how far these carriers can go, as they do have interceptors. BenBot, though, look at that, rebuilding 8 Vikings at a time. I think should be able to handle this one. Turrets are going to potentially kill all these interceptors. BenBot does have the high-sec auto tracking. No building armor, though, interestingly enough. Yeah, or those two weren't combined, were they? No, they weren't, right? Yeah, no, I'm not crazy. Yeah, we do have the carriers actually going down to the turrets, so that's not great. LunaX is rebuilding the base, but again, I think we're seeing that LunaX just will not be able to attack into BenBot without like, if it had observers, I'd be like, okay, maybe there's a chance, but as there is no detection, I don't think LunaX will ever be able to win this game. When a group of Widow Mines can cause that much chaos, although they arguably hurt BenBot more than LunaX. Now, let's see here, as carriers will clean this up, but yeah, I have no doubt in my mind that BenBot will prevail here. And, yeah, as it takes this base, yeah, I'd just be curious to see what LunaX looks like with speed mining, maybe. A little bit of detection, and maybe things are... And honestly, just cannons and batteries. Like, cannons and batteries defensively could completely change this. Carriers do bait out most of the shots from those Widow Mines, hitting the Vikings again. Man, oh man, as the carriers are trying to chase after these Vikings. Viking micro, very powerful. The carriers are getting whittled down, but so many of these Vikings are in the red, so LunaX does successfully defend once again. We'll see if it can counterattack or not. Turrets do continue to be a problem as one of those actually dies, and now BenBot teleports in these battle cruisers. They do have Yamato potential. There we go, 2 Yamato cannons. Do we get a third? Interesting pause as one of them waited to use its Yamato. One of the carriers does get killed. The BC is teleported in. They cannot teleport out. The +3 armor on the BCs really makes them strong against carriers, though. We do still have all these Widow Mines here. LunaX is going for it. We'll see if it can have success, but BenBot's got ridiculous Viking production, and yeah, well, I think we know how this one ends. LunaX slowly mining out, unable to handle the Widow Mines. Yeah, lots of potential though. And so I look forward to seeing if there's any updates from LunaX in the future. It does actually deal with the mines, as some of them unsiege, which is cool. But yeah, BenBot's got lots of Vikings, and yeah, no further expansions. Like, again, if LunaX was taking the extra bases, I'd say maybe there's a chance that it could win this game. Like, it could have built lots of extra Nexus, but it is just programmed to go up to the 4, which is definitely fair, as it probably wins or loses most of its games on 4 bases before it really mines out, so... All right, we'll see when BenBot can bring down LunaX. LunaX is really running out of the gas. And here we go. Lots of probes ripe for the pickings. Carriers are going to make a play, but yeah, BenBot's counter is pretty finely tuned. The Widow Mines, though, the friendly fire is atrocious. Holy smokes, those are the worst Widow Mines I've ever seen. Nexus getting rebuilt, but now there's not even enough money. All right, there it is. Thanks for watching, guys. Like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Well done by BenBot. GG.